Can you think of a safe, reliable, effective foam armament that you can carry with you on the field and tag a whole mess of people out with, but don't have to lug around a bunch of magazines or darts in order to use it? Well, the answer to that is, of course, a foam sword, and this one's cheating just a little bit because, of course, it has two massive pistols located as the grip, which, you'd have to carry around darts to use anyway, but the point is we're talking about this thing today. But before we get too far into this, I have to explain where it came from, and that just happened to be one night I was Googling Nerf gun with wild abandon and I came across this image. And I knew immediately I wanted it, but the image was several years old, linked on some forum that had nothing to do with Nerf, and I had no way of figuring out who made it. But fast forward a little bit and I was on the modcast with Make Test Battle and Bolololo. Not that they've put out any episodes recently or ever invited me back ever, the bastards, but the point is they had a community section where everybody brought in a mod to talk about, and mine was that, and I gushed about it because I absolutely adored it. The grip, the negative spacing right where the blade goes in, the blade itself. I loved this thing so much I couldn't talk about it enough. And luckily, since I said that, people were like, hey, Clowny Nerf made that. Here's his channel. And I got to see where this guy came up with all of his crazy stuff. In fact, it was one of his first episodes he talked about that thing. It's criminal how I've seen all this other garbage on YouTube but never seen this guy's channel. And thankfully, because of that, I got to talk to him on Facebook. And my gosh, is he a funny guy to talk to. And fast forward a little bit into that conversation, he says, hey, I understand you're looking for a barrel break. Well, you'd be doing me a favor if you took mine. I have no use for it, so why don't you give me your address and I'll send it to you? And at first I was very apprehensive because I don't like accepting freebies from people, but he pretty much insisted I take it, so I said, okay, fine, send it to me. And that video of the unboxing of this thing, which was in the box with the barrel break, is right here, and I cannot state enough that this is the most truest reaction I could possibly ever get you about anything. It's making me dizzy just thinking about it. Some dude whom I barely know not only spent the time, money, and materials to make this thing, but he made it specifically for a complete stranger. Blows my mind. I couldn't imagine that. But yet I pulled it out of that box and here it is. You may notice this thing looks a little bit different than when I pulled it out of that box, and that's because I've done some modifications to it. Not that Clowny did a bad job or anything like that, but when he sent it to me, it had two Ace number 49 springs, and these things are ridiculously powerful, and the barrels were stock with no air restrictors, no padding on the plungers, and of course, like, the third time I dry fired it, the entire front of the plunger tube snapped off. And unfortunately, I didn't have another Nitefinder in order to fix that. I did have one, it was the original one that Bobololo sent me, and I didn't want to tear that one apart to feed this thing, so I had to wait a little while, and luckily for me, Fowla from Blow No Nerf sent me a box of like 4 of them! Awesome! So I immediately got to going to fixing this thing, shoving new internals in there, but that wasn't all. I cut off the entire front of the barrels and replaced them with CPVC couplers, which right now they're just stock, barrels I put on there, which are the exact length of the dart, but I could put a speed loader or whatever I want on there, and I would think that would improve the seal, but for whatever reason the seal on this thing is god-awful. I have no idea why. There's no leaking coming from where the coupler is. It's DevConned in there like none other, or the barrels, because obviously those don't have holes in them. I have no idea. I think it has something to do with the O-ring seal, and I couldn't really figure out how to fix it. I tried to relube it, nothing seemed to work. But regardless, it still hits like a ton of bricks, and it's very, very difficult to prime. Kind of a weird way to do that. And the way this thing works, obviously, is you can pull this handle right here in the middle to shove both triggers back at once, or you can just pull the triggers independently and shoot one dart after another. But where's the fun in that? Because when you do that, well, you get 2 darts coming out, and they hit with a lot of force, thankfully, which makes this pretty useful. Not that it's the most practical thing in the world, but we'll get to that. This isn't the only part of the blaster, though, because, of course, there's this beautiful foam blade on the front, which absolutely kills. I have never seen somebody hand make a boffer blade that looks like that. It's got, beveled edges, so it looks like a blade. It's got this cool little thing right here. It just looks awesome. It's a flat blade that's got beveled edges, so it actually looks like some kind of blade, and this nice decorative stuff right here. And of course, WS7 for Walcom S7 inscribed into it. And of course, it's foam. You can completely do whatever you want with it. It's not going to hurt anyone. It's a little pointy, but oh well, it's short, it's easy to control. I'm not too worried about ever hitting somebody with this in the eye. And it's completely removable, so if I wanted to change out the blade for maybe not such a nice one because I don't want to ruin this one, I can totally do that and put whatever I want in there. Awesome. And besides rebarreling it, I just gave it a very, very simple paint job. I went over it with the Rust-Oleum 2X primer, went over that with Rust-Oleum 2X Dark Walnut, which is a satin finish, and then went over that with my patented Gundam marker dry brushing, this time with gold, to try to give it that old-timey feel, and then some metallic red in the circles there, because why not? And that made this thing look a lot better in my opinion. It's nothing more than my patented, you know, functional paint job, but it brings the entire blade together. And then of course the plates right here, which were originally white plastic, I covered those up with some primer and then decided to go over them with some silver accents on the side to make it look like sheet metal. So what we have here is a very, very nice punching dagger sword Katar thing. It's not very long, but it's long enough to be usable and still carry it with me in pretty much any loadout I want. Now, being able to shotgun 2 darts with a reasonable amount of speed is very, very useful, but the best part is, of course, the fact that I get to tag people out with the sword. So really, it can shoot darts if I absolutely need it to, but really it's meant for me to be able to sneak up and tag people out, or if they're within extreme close quarters or using a shield or something like that, I can go right around it. Very, very nice setup. Not entirely practical. It is, however, probably the best offhand I could possibly want. If I was carrying another sword or something, like say I was doing a pistol round, this would be a very, very good offhand for a couple of really easy reasons. For one, the blade is flat, it's thick, which is not something you typically get with boffer blades. They're usually pool noodles, which, while are sort of thick, they're nowhere near that thick, and well, this makes it really easy for me to do a couple of things like slap darts out of the air. Something that happens all of the time if you've ever used melee in a Nerf war. Unless people are shooting Steffens at really high velocities, well, it's really easy to slap all kinds of darts right out of the air and keep yourself in the fight. And better yet, it's incredibly thick and very, very stable, so if I wanted to parry somebody or catch another foam blade, very, very easy for me to do that. It's a very good offhand if I was using, say, another longsword in my main hand. And then, of course, it can shoot if I need it to. If I, you know, pull this out and then all of a sudden realize, hey, I can't hit this person with this, well, I've got a 2-dart shotgun I can try to hit them with, which comes out insanely fast, so you would think that would give me some kind of tagging feature. I can't thank Clowny enough for this thing. My only hope is that when I use it in a war, you know, I can show off, hey, look, I got a bunch of tags with it, and make him proud. And for that, I have dubbed this thing the Tusk. This is the Walrus Tusk, essentially. If I had any criticisms about this thing at all, it's that the grip is a little small, so it's kind of hard to fit my entire hand in there. Not a big deal. Hold it like this, and if I need to, I can easily, you know, shift my hand like this to pull both of them, or just shoot one. Doesn't matter. You will notice that this isn't the very, very nice, plastic thing that Clowny made originally, and that it looks pretty frickin' ugly. You might notice this thing looks a little bit ugly. It's not the nice plastic molded one that Clowny had, and that's because he made that out of like a coat hanger, like a plastic one, and that thing tore almost instantly. I barely finished the review and the thing had already torn a little bit, and of course it just peeled right off after that. And I tried to replace it with, you know, obviously some Lexan, and tried to glue that really, really nice, comfortable front piece on top of it, but the plastic that thing is made out of is ungluable. You can't glue it. I've tried everything. I've tried super glue, this stuff. I've tried hot glue. I've tried DevCon plastic welder. I've tried 2-part epoxy. I cannot get any glue to work on that, and I've tried sanding it profusely. I've tried scoring it several times with a blade in every single direction, doing lots of cross-hatching, and it still would not stick to this. I gave up. Honestly, I'm not going to be firing it all that much, so I don't need it to be super comfortable, and holding it like this is just asking for me to break it, so hold it like this, everything's good, and if I really need to fire both, I can just easily switch my hand to do that, and this gives me a little bit more control over the blade. I cannot say how much I love this thing. It is amazing. And I really hope that you guys check out Clowny's channel, subscribe, watch his videos. In fact, I'll have one right here, the entire build log on this blaster right here, and then of course his original Katar right here where he built that. I cannot thank him enough. Seriously, Clowny. I hope I'm doing you justice here, because this paint job may not be the prettiest thing ever, but it's the best I could do. I think it fits the blade rather perfectly in my opinion, and I cannot wait to slay some people with it. If you like this video, or if you don't like the video, whatever, just make sure you rate it, hit that thumbs up, hit that thumbs down. I don't know why the heck you would hit the thumbs down, but whatever. It's your choice. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Walcom S7, and I hope to see you in an entirely different one.